next speaker from Debbie's Dream Foundation, Mr. Steve Melen. Over to you.
Konnichiwa. Hello, my name is Steve Melen, and I'm here representing Debbie's Dream Foundation, where I am a board member, treasurer, and mentor. I'm a financial advisor by profession, but carry many other titles that I'm proud of, including father, husband, and lastly, mentor for newly diagnosed patients. Why am I here today? Well, I'm here because I have no stomach, I have no spleen, I have no gallbladder, I have a half a pancreas, I have a third of my esophagus, I've been through chemo and I've been through radiation, and I'm still standing here. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that I have an amazing life and wish they had more of what I have. You have good energy and seem very happy about all the things that are things that I hear about all the time. The reality is that the challenges have been immense, and I've done everything possible to turn what I used to call problems into just challenges. With the help of family, friends, and a higher power, along with Eastern and Western medicines, I'm incredibly impressed with what we can get through. We have many choices in life and must create our own path to achieve the desired outcomes. When I was diagnosed with stage 3B adenocarcinoma at the GE Junction back in January of 2008, I had no idea what I was in for. It took about 9 months and 3 visits to the doctor to finally get the diagnosis, coming from an emergency room visit. I called my friends and my wife at the time to tell them I had cancer, but wasn't sure if it was in the stomach, in the spleen, or in multiple organs at the time. Initially, I was told that I had a 5-centimeter mass at the GE Junction and that my pancreas was swollen. So I thought maybe I had cancer of my pancreas as well. I followed up with 3 other opinions, all slightly different, so I had to make a decision on which way to go, which wasn't the easiest time in my life. I had about 2 weeks to decide which path I wanted to take. I ended up choosing Stanford Hospital in Palo Alto, California. They wanted to remove all of my stomach on January 30th, 2008. I said, we can't do that because January 30th is my birthday, and I don't want my birthday to actually end up being my death day, and that wouldn't be how my story needs to go. So we pushed it off, and I was able to have control over the date of my surgery. I pushed it off a week. So I joked that I'd always wanted to get into Stanford University because my family had all gone to Stanford, and I unfortunately was unable to get in there. So I joked that now I'm finally getting into Stanford University via the hospital. So the morning of my surgery, things didn't go smoothly as I wished. First, the technician was having trouble getting a vein of mine and had to stick me several times. And I thought that was a bad sign. It just didn't feel good going to surgery with getting poked many times. Then I read the paperwork that I needed to sign, and they said they were going to take out my entire spleen and part of my pancreas and all of my stomach. I didn't even know what the spleen did at that time. So I'm like, can I live without all these organs? I was having a hard time wrapping my head around living without a stomach, so this time it sounded more difficult than initially thought. I'd only met one other person, stomachless person, that I was introduced to with the same diagnosis, the same doctor, the same age, everything was identical. So I'd asked him what the biggest challenge so far was, and with a straight face he said, my gas, I fart a lot, and it might ruin my marriage. So I thought, if that's as bad as it's going to be, I think I can live with this. So back to surgery day. I counted down from 10 to 1 and made it to 5 before it was lights out. I woke up 8 hours later wondering how it all went, wrapped in bandages, feeling very sore and stiff. The surgery was a success, they told me. Now you just have to recover in the coming weeks so we can release you. Hours later, I was slipping in and out of consciousness, and I was getting septic. They wheeled me back into the operating room for an emergency surgery to fix and find a leak that was making me septic. But this time I woke up a week later with my arms and legs strapped to the bed with a nurse that was sitting next to me 24 hours a day. Apparently I had tried to pull all my tubes out of my body, and I was hallucinating, thinking my body parts were being sold and to the Chinese, unfortunately. I don't know why that came in there, but The hospital stay ended up being a month, so all of this was not going as planned to start with. Getting released was a huge step, and I was told I needed to strengthen up before the chemo and radiation therapy in a few months. The only thing I knew about chemo was that most people would lose their hair, which I was resigned to being my future. At this point, I was pretty beaten up, so I figured it couldn't be as bad as what I'd been through. Now, with no stomach, no spleen, gallbladder, half the pancreas, it was off to the next step. Chemo was a combination of 5-FU, Xeloda, and oxaliplatin administered weekly through long transfusions along with large pills. Nearing the end of my chemo, we started the daily radiation treatments. I handled the chemo better than expected without losing my hair, so I figured that I could get through the radiation easily. Well, I was wrong about that. The radiation felt like it almost killed me. On the final day of treatment, I went in crying to my doctor saying, I don't know how much more I can take of this. But he came back and said, that's it, we're done. You've done 90% of what the plan was, but way more than I thought you'd make it. At this point, I was down to 95 pounds. Struggling, doctors suggested that I go on TPN for nutrition, as I needed to gain weight and get nutrition. From that point, it's been a roller coaster of physical issues and have slowly improved over the years. So at the time, these slides aren't really lining up with what I'm saying, but you get the picture. They say a lot in the slides. At the time, I only had one person as a reference or beacon point for my future. Being almost identical in every aspect of our diagnosis and treatment, I had a tremendous amount of hope and inspiration for the way he was paving the way for me. Then the unexpected happened, is that he died. So I was completely devastated and felt like my time would be sooner than I had planned for. The single most important thing for me was to see survivors and to feel like I could make it. The way I felt daily was a constant battle, and if life was going to be this tough without making it, I was going to question whether or not the fight was worth it. I fell into a mini depression and then tried to get through my days, but that's when things got hard for everyone. When you lose hope and the will to live, it turns into a very dark place. I turned to self-medicating, which, looking back, was not a choice I would recommend people take. This is why my position as mentor for Debbie's Dream Foundation is one of the most important roles I have in my life right now. The feedback I've heard after 15 to 30-minute conversations with newly diagnosed patients telling me that they have received more inspiration in this quick conversation than they have from anyone else is practically, it's just the most amazing thing for me to be able to offer. I believe the mind is super powerful and can help in the healing process immensely. Because if stress and depression can age and make people sick, why can't hope and optimism heal and help people recover faster? I've been matched with so many individuals who have had similar diagnoses to myself, and when they survive and tell me that they can't thank me enough, it puts me in tears of happiness. All of the stories don't end happily, but making the most of the present with hope for the future is absolutely invaluable. There was a period of time when I couldn't see beyond my current day and it seemed like the future was very dark. Now, I see everything in vivid colors, like my beautiful wife in her yellow dress. Whatever your source of positivity, it is important to stay connected and not be isolated. The more alone you feel, the more depressed it can get, and the harder it is to make it through each day. I wake up looking forward to each day and what the day has in store and not dreading for what I have in store for me. I'm told regularly that people don't believe they can make it through what I've been through, and my response is always that you'd be amazed what you can with a little help and support. So with that, I hope that anyone looking for hope and inspiration will reach out to Debbie's Dream Foundation for resources on how to live, and mentors like myself to help live a little bit better life and make things easier. Thank you, and I'm honored to have this opportunity to speak with you in your beautiful country. Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause, and let's give a round of applause for his beautiful wife.